It's that time of year. Time to go back to school. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am doing the back to school book tag, which is one that I created back in 2020. I will drop the original down in the description along with my 2021 version. I don't think I've done it since. If I have, I will leave it in the description. So obviously this is a book tag that is all around school, going back to school, etc. And it's in two parts. So the instructions are that everybody does the times of day questions, which I'll do first, and then you can pick as many of the subject questions as you would like to do. You might do it based on your favourite subjects from school, your worst subjects from school, subjects you're still studying at school, or like me, you might do the whole lot. I'm going to work my way through all of the prompts. There are quite a few. And answer these questions and kind of update my answers. I've tried, apart from the first question, to choose different books than I think I've chosen before for these questions. So hopefully there will be new and interesting information here for you. And yeah, it's just a bit of fun. In case you don't know, in case you're new here, hello, come on in. I'm an English teacher, and so I created this tag whilst I was training in 2020 to become a teacher, because obviously it was on my mind a lot of the time. Okay, let's get into this. So first bell. So this is the times of days questions first. First bell, tell us about the book that first got you into reading. Now obviously this answer doesn't change, and that book is The Borrowers by Mary Norton. I was a huge reader as a child, but this is the first book that I remember reading by myself and loving and reading it again and again and again. This copy is very beaten up. It's been very well loved. And yeah, I loved this story, and we are following Ariette Clock, who lives under the floorboards in the kitchen, and she is a borrower. So she's this tiny person, and she lives with Pod and Homily, her mum and dad, and it's about the adventures that they go on. And it's just this lovely middle grade fantasy story. And yeah, it was the first, like I said, it's the first book that I vividly remember reading by myself and reading it again and again because I just loved it so much. And I love the idea of this, like these tiny people living within the bigger house. So yeah, The Borrowers by Mary Norton made me a reader for sure. Next question, break time. Which book have you most recently had to take a break from or DNF? So I'm filming this actually in August because I'm trying to preempt my usual September slump by pre-filming some content. And in August, I am completing or attempting to complete a 31 in 31. By the time this video goes up, my August vlogs will already be live, so you'll get to see if I have achieved that or not. But one of the things I can't do this month is DNF, because if I DNF a book, it then doesn't count for those days' pages, because I don't count DNFs in my normal reading, and then I'd have to go back to the start. So I'm trying very hard not to DNF. So I haven't DNF'd anything so far this month. However, to answer this question, I firmly believe in DNFing. I think if you are not enjoying a book, you should definitely put it down and step away unless you are studying it or whatever. So very pro DNF, just I haven't DNF'd anything this month so far. I think this year my DNFs have been fairly low. I think I've had sort of, it's like I said, I'm filming in August. I think I'm on about 10 DNFs for the year, which is not bad given that I'm on about 120 something books read. But yeah, definitely DNF if you need to. Okay, lunchtime. Tell us about your favourite book that features food. So I've chosen this one. I love books about food. Love books about food. If a book has good food descriptions, it will genuinely increase the star rating that I give it. So I've chosen this book because, well, one, it features food, obviously, but it also opened up this whole genre to me that I hadn't read previously. And that book is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. If you've watched my content, you'll know how much I love this book. So I won't go on about it for too long, but we're following Viv, who is retiring. She is I always forget the name of what she is. She's a barbarian orc, or an orc barbarian. You can see her actually, just there. That's Viv. And she decides to retire, hang up her sword, and she decides to open a coffee shop. And so she moves to a town, but they don't know what coffee is. There's no existing structure. So she literally builds this coffee shop from the ground up, introduces the locals to coffee, and gathers a kind of fan family around her. And there is a little mouse in here, or a little ratkin even, who starts baking, and he starts producing baked goods to go alongside the coffee. And he basically invents a cinnamon roll. And honestly, the descriptions of food in this are just top notch. This is one of my favourite books of all time. it opened up cozy fantasy as a genre to me, and I loved it. So yeah, definitely Legends and Lattes for a book about food. Okay, final bell. Which book have you most recently finished reading? I'm going to put this together with the next one, which is Homework, which is what was the last non-fiction book that you read and enjoyed. So this again is part of my 31 and 31. So if you've seen my August vlogs, you've already seen me wrap this book up. I love reading non-fiction. I try to read as much of it as I can. And this one I thought was brilliantly done. And that is The Gender Games by Juno Dawson. And the little tagline at the bottom says, "The problem with men and women from someone who has been both." Juno Dawson, in case you don't know her, I don't know how that's possible, is a very famous writer. She writes for middle grade, for teenagers and young adult. She writes grown-up books as well, adult books as well, and she writes non-fiction. And she's also a trans woman, and this is her memoir of her transitioning, or starting her transition when she was in her 30s. And I thought this was brilliantly done. This lays out, if you are confused or unsure of what the difference between sex and gender is, for example, or kind of what the fuss is with kind of people being trans and non-binary, she lays this out really clearly, really well, and tells her story alongside it as well. What I would say is I wouldn't recommend this for young people to pick up. There's lots of swearing, and she's very open and honest about her journey and some of the things that she has done along the way. Some of it's quite explicit, but for a non-fiction for adults, I thought this was absolutely brilliantly done, and I would highly recommend it. So yeah, that is the last book I finished, and a non-fiction that I really, really enjoyed. Okay, and then the final one for the times of day, Staff Room. Tell us a book that you go to when you need to take a breath. Staff rooms are very, very important rooms on school sites. And this is a series that I go back to when I just need that moment. And that book is, or this is kind of standing with the whole series, this is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is volume 5, which is the volume that came out this year. I think volume 6 coming out this year? I can't remember, but I'm very excited for it. And this series follows Nick and Charlie, who are two boys in an English or British secondary school, who meet, become friends, and eventually fall in love. And this series, like, I picked this one because you can see the two characters hugging on the front cover. This series just feels like a hug to me, and it's a series that I always come back to if I'm going through something or I'm feeling stressed and I just need to spend some time with some characters I love. I always come back to Nick and Charlie. So yeah, Heartstopper for sure. Okay, now we're getting into the subject questions. Like I said, you don't have to answer all of these if you happen to do the tag, but I'm going to, because it's my tag and I want to answer these questions. So question number 1 is English. Obviously I put English first, being an English teacher. Tell us about one book you studied at school and recommend one book that you would like to add to the curriculum. So one book that I studied at school that I have very mixed feelings about now is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is a classic, an American classic, and we are following Scout. I'm really good at character names, honestly, and a brother Jem, and they are children growing up in the South when a black man is accused of attacking a white woman and the trial that ensues. And Scout's dad is the lawyer, the defense lawyer for this young black man that's been accused. I have some complicated feelings around it because Harper Lee was a white woman writing about this, but also it's a book that has brought this situation to the attention of millions of people. It is also, I think, really well written, and yeah, it's one that I studied it in college, but it was probably the only one I had left on my shelves that I'd studied at school aside from Shakespeare. So yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee is one I studied, and one that I would put into the curriculum is Rumiasa, A Fairy Tale by Radia Hafisa. I love this cover, and this is 3 short stories retelling traditional fairy tales and changing the narrative. So we have Rumiasa, where it says here, Rumiasa, let down your hijab. So we've got this Rapunzel retelling. There is also a Cinderella retelling and a Sleeping Beauty in here. I think they're beautifully done. I think that they would generate a lot of conversation. I would teach this to year 7s, so ages 11 to 12, and it's nice and short because you need short texts to teach in English, but you could really have some great conversations based on this book. Plus, it's just 3 really enjoyable stories. She's a great writer and I would recommend. Okay, maths. How do you rate your books? I have not done an update video on this for a while. I'll find the latest one that I did and I'll put that in the description in case you're interested. Very quickly, I rate out of 5. And I rate mostly on enjoyment. So I very rarely, I don't think I've given a 1 star this year. Very unlikely to give a 1 star. If I give it 1 star, I probably DNF'd it. 2 stars is I finished it, didn't enjoy it, wouldn't recommend it. 3 stars is this was fine, but I'm probably going to forget about it fairly quickly. 4 stars, really enjoyed it, just didn't give me that 5-star feel, whatever that is. And 5 stars, flawless, perfect, no notes. I do half stars to give me a little bit more nuance, particularly between 4 and 5. I seem to give quite a lot of 4.5 stars. And that's pretty much it. I go very much on feeling. I will rate a book as soon as I finished it. And endings are very important to me. I would say that. I know that much about myself as a reader. So yeah, rate out of 5. I base it on enjoyment. That's pretty much as technical as I get. Okay, science. Which book couple do you think has the best chemistry? I was looking at my shelves with this. Oh, I've now got hiccups. I do apologise. And I love the chemistry between these 2 characters. And that is the characters from A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. This is the first book in the series. You can see book 2 here, and I've got book 3 at the time of filming. It will be on its way to me very shortly because it's coming out in August. And it's Marielle and Oz. And I love a Grumpy Sunshine pairing. This has got forced proximity. There's only 1 bed. Basically, Marielle is a witch, and she is trying one day to use her magic, and instead she accidentally summons Oz, who is a demon, and he can't leave until he gets her soul. And obviously she doesn't want to give him her soul. So you have this whole back and forth between the 2 of them. The chemistry in this is fantastic. It is spicy. And I love this book. And yeah, as soon as I saw this question, I was like, I know who I'm choosing for this one. So yeah, the characters in this, I think, have got fantastic chemistry. And look at that cover. Beautiful. Okay. Oh, itchy ear. What's next? Geography. Describe a book that had a strong sense of place or great world building. I have been obsessed with a series this year. If you've been watching my content, you'll know which book I'm about to hold up. And I am well aware that the author is considered one of the best world builders of all time. Having now read this series, I can see why. And I've gone with Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book stands in for all 4 books, including The Hobbit. You can see how much I enjoyed it because I tabbed it to death. And the world building in here is just, I can see why he is considered one of the best world builders ever. It's just second to none. It's such a strong sense of place. There's languages, there's histories, there's so much going on. And yeah, definitely this one. If you want a strong sense of world building, J.R. Tolkien is the person you want to go to, for sure. Okay. History. Which 3 historical fiction novels have you most enjoyed? And if you don't read historical fiction, which areas of history would you like to learn more about? I love historical fiction, obviously, because I wrote this question. So I picked out 3, and we're going to go in kind of time order. So the first one is The Six Tudor Queens by Alison Weir. My favourite of the series is Jane Seymour, The Haunted Queen. This is still my favourite of the series. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I really want to reread the series at some point. Then I've chosen Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. This is set in Victorian London. Yes, I knew that. Obviously, this is Tudor times. 6 Tudor Queens. Then we're into, like I said, Victorian London. I love this. This is one of the kind of, I was going to say original lesbian stories. No, it was written in like the 90s, I think. But it's very queer, and it's very much coming of age, and it's really immersive. You really feel like you're in Victorian London, and I absolutely loved it. Do not be put off by the size. It is a big book. But I read this really, really quickly, and I kind of just got sucked in by the characters. So yeah, Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. And then finally, one of my favourite books of last year, this is Other Women by Emma Flint. This is set between the world wars, I think. 6 years after the end of the Great War. And I love this. This was so clever. You're following 2 women. And I don't really, it just says a husband, a wife, a lover, each has a secret they'd kill to protect. I don't really want to tell you any more than that because I went in quite blind, but it's got a really strong sense of time period, and it made me think about things that I'd never considered before. For example, because of how many young men were killed during the war, there was this whole lost generation of women as well, because there weren't enough men to go around. And yeah, I just thought this was fantastic. This is one of the best things, definitely, that I read last year. Emma Flint is a stunning writer. Okay, religious studies. What is one book that you will always come back to? So again, this probably hasn't changed from the first and second times I did this, because obviously it's a book I return to. And it's The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is, again, quite a big book. but one that I can storm through in a day if I sit down. It's one of those books I have to be careful when I read it, because I will just get sucked straight into the pages and I will not want to come out. And this is following, what is her name? Margaret, who works in a bookshop, and she gets summoned by this cranky old author who lives in this huge mansion, and she's kind of summoned to the house and doesn't really know why she's there, and the author wants to tell Margaret her life story, which is the 13th tale. And I can't tell you any more than that. It is gothic, it's historical, it's family secrets, it's family sagas. If you liked Evelyn Hugo, this is like the original Evelyn Hugo, or a predecessor to it. I absolutely adored it, and yeah, it's one I come back to all the time. Okay, PE, show us the biggest book on your TBR. Again, this is obviously my TBR as it stands right now. Hopefully by the time you see this, I've read this book, but that is Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Ayemedi. Charlotte gave me this when I went to see her earlier on in the year, and it's a big book for sure. It is, oh, the text is small as well. It is 563 pages. And it's, as far as I know, it's a YA mystery thriller. It just says secrets haunt these hallowed halls, and looking at the cover, there's blood and stuff. I feel like it won't be a cuddly, cozy mystery. I'm really excited for this. I've heard really good things, and I loved Ace of Spades by this author. So I feel like, again, a bit like with 13th Tale, even though it's big, although this one is bigger than this one, I feel like once I get into it, I'll probably rip through it really fast. So yeah, that is currently the biggest book on my TBR. Did I read it? You will be able to tell me by the time this comes up. Okay, we're almost through. We've got 4 or 5 left. Music. Which reading format do you think has the best rhythm for reading? Can you tell I was struggling slightly to come up with a music question? I personally read physically, paperback and hardback, and I read audibly. I don't read on a Kindle or a screen. I'm dyslexic, and I find that really, really hard. I've tried lots of different, like, people have said, oh, have you tried this particular Kindle or this app, whatever. I just don't like reading on screens. My brain has never liked it, and I find it just not enjoyable. So for me, it's either going to be physically, paperback or hardback, or audiobook for reading personally. But however you read is absolutely valid, and just find what works for you, obviously. Right, drama. Which book do you think had the best ending? So again, I was looking at my shelves and I was trying to choose something that I haven't spoken about too recently, or like spoken about before doing this tag. And I've gone with Love Like Farms by B.K. Borison. I also love this cover because I feel like the ending for romance books can often kind of suck. And like I said already in this video, like, endings are really important to me as a reader. So for me to really enjoy a romance, it has to have a good ending. And I loved how this ended. It was like satisfying, but like it didn't get too, like, the characters didn't get too ahead of themselves, should we put it that way? And it also left the door open for the following books. The other books are companion novels, and I just really liked the ending of this book. So this one, we are on a Christmas tree farm. We're following Stella, and her Christmas tree farm is failing. So she enters a social media competition, and to make her application more appealing, she lies and says that she owns the Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend, so she drafts in her, is it Lucas? Luca, I always get that wrong. She drafts in her best friend Luca to be her fake boyfriend, and it's a romance, you know where it's going. But yeah, I really felt like this had a good ending, and it just jumped out on me from the shelf when I was looking for an answer to this question. Okay, 2 more questions left. Show us 3 books that you think have the best covers. I've picked these 3 out. They're all fantasy. I feel like fantasy books get the best covers, and you can tell from this that I like illustrated covers, I like shiny covers, just like pretty things. So I've gone with these 3 books, and you can just see from the spine, can't you? So A Pirate's Life, Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, the sequel, which I'm going to be reading shortly, is called A Pirate's Life for Tea, by Rebecca Thorne. Look how pretty this is. I'm not going to spend too long on this because I've already been going for 20 minutes. The Honey Witch. Whoops, let's hold this better. The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. Like, I mentioned this in my mid-year freakout tag. I think this is the prettiest book I own so far, except, well, up until the point when I filmed that, except for this one. This one is gorgeous, and this is also just the bog standard Waterstones edition. And this is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and I love it. I want to live there so bad, and there's a cat with wings. I want to be here. So yeah, those are 3 covers that I love. And then finally, modern foreign languages, recommend a translated book that you enjoyed. I'm going to change this slightly this year because it's my tag and I can, to a translated book that I am looking forward to reading. And again, by the time you see this, I will have read this book. So technically, it's a book I've read. Let's hope I enjoyed it. And that is What You Are Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Ayamaya, translated by Alison Watts. I'm really looking forward to this. This sounds really cozy and lovely. I've heard really good things about it. And on the back it just says, library, what a nice sounding word. So comforting. I feel like a student again. Library. Am I allowed to borrow books? And yeah, I'm really excited and looking forward to this one. So hopefully I've enjoyed it. Again, you'll be able to tell me in the comments if I have, because hopefully you'll have seen these videos by then. So yeah, that is a book, a translated book that I am looking forward to reading. Okay, finally, let's tag some people. So if you haven't seen a tag from me before, I just go onto my subscription feed and I just tag a whole bunch of people who have posted videos recently. At the time of filming this, I've just filmed another tag, so I'm going to start from where I was in my sub feed, so I'm not double tagging people. Okay, I'm going to tag Aoife at Words of Clover, Harriet at Harriet Rosie, Kaz at Cats and Camera, Gavin at Gavin Reads It All, Kat at Brews and Reviews, and last one, Leanne at Leanne Rose. I don't know if any of you guys have done this before, but I'm tagging you anyway. Don't feel like you have to, but if you want to, please go ahead. Anyone else that wants to do it, please do. Please tag me in the description of your videos so that I can find it really easily, because I do love watching them. If you've made it to this point in the video, let's have a black cat emoji, because I'm really looking forward to this book and I love this cover. So yeah, leave me the black cat emoji or the pause emoji if that's easier. Just let me know that you got to the end. Please subscribe if you would like more of this chaos, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye.